This is Josh Friedman coming to you from Montreux, Switzerland, on the shores of Lake Geneva, which I am staring at right now. I'll crop in some photos. This is a truly majestic setting. Behind me is the rather large and luxurious Hotel Fairmont, Le Montreux Palace. I guess you could simply call it the Montreux Palace. And this palace of a hotel, starting today, is the site of the 2019 Bilderberg conference. It is Thursday morning, and the participants will be arriving momentarily. I'm actually going to head out to the airport to try to get a glance of who's coming in. The airport is all the way out in Geneva, on the other side of beautiful Lake Geneva, here in the French-speaking area of Switzerland. This year's conference is quite noteworthy, and it was announced at the very last moment. So, with only 48 hours, some media, including myself, were given the notice that Bilderberg 2019 is taking place here in Montreux. It was a last-minute announcement following a year in which there was some increased scrutiny of the conference. Not that there were so many journalists outside last year and tour in Italy. I was one of them. But the Daily Mail did succeed in infiltrating Bilderberg 2018. They embedded a reporter inside the hotel complex among the hotel staff. Maybe that's part of the reason why the conference date and location was announced so late this year. Maybe not. Maybe Bilderberg is just upping its secrecy. Anyway, for those of you who are not aware from my previous Bilderberg coverage, the Bilderberg Group is a group of Western elites, predominantly from Europe, mostly Western Europe, and North America, mostly the US and Canada. It includes elites from various spheres in our society: industry, banking, media, politics, and they invite many other elites and dignitaries, interesting people, sometimes politicians, sometimes rising stars in politics, to come to their annual gatherings. And this year it's taking place for the next 4 days right here at this incredibly luxurious palace complex, the Montreux Palace. And of course, we don't know exactly what they'll be discussing. It's a closed-door meeting, the only press who are allowed in, and there are some major media representatives who will be there. For instance, the editors-in-chief of both Bloomberg and The Economist are supposed to be there this week, but the press who are inside will not be reporting on the conference, and those on the outside are left with little to work with to try to piece together what is happening on the inside. Due to some pressure in recent years, Bilderberg has been releasing what they call a key topics list. They don't even want to refer to it as an agenda, as well as a participants list, although they've been releasing the participants list as well. But they've got a new website with a press release with a little more detail. This year there are, I believe, 11 topics listed on this informal agenda. Some of them are repeats, such as stuff having to do with Europe and Brexit. Populism has been a recent topic, and it's been a topic in recent years. China and Russia are repeats. Artificial intelligence seems to be something the Bilderberg Group is becoming increasingly interested in. This year's AI topic is the ethics of artificial intelligence. Technology is a major issue for the Bilderberg Group in its contemporary times. This year, space is on the agenda, or the informal agenda, the topics list. That topic is actually called The Importance of Space, and a couple of the attendees coming from the US are involved in space matters. This comes at a time when the US is planning on creating a space force. The Space Command had basically gone defunct in the US, and now the Trump administration is bringing it back and trying to expand it into a new branch of the military, the Space Force. So potentially that will be discussed in the meeting. They're talking about the importance of space, or Bilderberg says they will be. Speaking of the Trump administration, a very notable attendee this year who's gaining probably more spotlight than anyone else with regard to coverage of this year's conference, that is the son-in-law of President Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, who is a high-ranking advisor to Trump and who is basically tasked with bringing peace to Israel and Palestine. Kushner will be here. He is on the attendees list. Likewise, a very prominent Democrat, or someone who's recently gained fame in the US, Stacey Abrams, who recently lost the Georgia's gubernatorial election, which actually she contested, but that's put her in the media spotlight. She's on the attendance list. She's coming, and potentially she is a candidate for president as soon as 2020, or she could possibly start campaigning as soon as this year. And potentially this conference this week will be some sort of an audition for Stacey Abrams, as Bilderberg, among its critics, very much has the reputation of being an organization of kingmakers. In the past, politicians have come here shortly before they've risen to power in their respective countries, becoming presidents or prime ministers or chancellors. Speaking of the German chancellor position, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, who has replaced Angela Merkel as head of the ruling CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, the ruling party in Germany. She is coming this year, and this might be very much an audition for her. Kramp-Karrenbauer is in the news right now, not so much in a positive sense. Her CDU did not perform as well as it was expected to do so, or as well as maybe it should do so, in last week's European Parliament elections, and she's embroiled in some controversy right now having to do with social media and social media censorship. She's spoken critically of some YouTubers who are criticizing her party, telling Germans not to vote for it. Anyway, that's also interesting in the sense that social media is on the agenda, or the topics list. The topic is called the, quote, weaponization of social media, and that gets some people on the outside speculating whether Bilderberg is going to be discussing social media censorship. Just since the last conference took place over the past year, there have been numerous anti-establishment voices in the West who have been wiped off major social media platforms, and you got to wonder whether Bilderberg supports that policy. There are major tech representatives here on a regular basis, people as powerful as Google, or rather Alphabet's Eric Schmidt. He's coming. He's a regular attendee here, and it raises questions what Bilderberg's stance is on free speech in the social media realm. As far as free speech and freedom of the press at Bilderberg, it's a bit limited. As I've said, it's a conference that's closed door, off the record. The press who are on the inside will not be reporting. The press who are on the outside tend to face a lot of harassment. I was going around yesterday, one day before Bilderberg 2019, scouting out the area with We Are Change's Luke Radowski, and we faced a slight amount of harassment. We were detained once, screamed at once, which is rather light compared to some past years. In fact, for Bilderberg morning, I would say the whole security situation right now is a bit light. Here's somewhat of a panorama showing you the Montreux Palace. the Fairmont Hotel, that is also the Montreux Palace. Lake Geneva right behind you. Unfortunately, the sunlight isn't giving you such a good view, but it's an incredibly majestic setting. I was saying, not that heavy of a police presence out here right now, I'd say, for what is typical of Bilderberg, although there are officers and security walking around. Plants have been assembled right here, basically to block off the view and block off the main entrance. It appears that the cars will be coming in around the back. I was out there scouting yesterday, but maybe this is a more subdued security situation than is typical for Bilderberg, but we'll see. There could be police pouring in today. As I mentioned, the attendees are about to arrive, and I'm going to go head out to Geneva and the airport to try to greet them and get some comments. They don't tend to say a whole lot, but hopefully we will get some interaction between reporters on the outside and participants at Bilderberg this year. So I'm heading off to do that. You can kind of get a glimpse of the lake behind me. I'll be showing you more of this incredibly majestic setting as the week goes on, and I gotta rush off right now, but I'll be continuously reporting to you from Montreux, Switzerland for the next 3 or 4 days from Bilderberg 2019. Stay tuned.